All right, welcome to Cuco's Corner here with Poundtown Media. I am Daddy Longleg Santiago. I am sitting with Santos Barbosa. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Um, we want to get into a couple topics today. Once again, circled around pro wrestling, and we want to get to know the gentleman sitting to the left of me. So let's get started with this and talk about from the beginning to the end. So you are not Iowa native.
No, I'm not. I was actually born and raised in Long Island, New York.
Long Island, New York. And how long have you been a pro wrestling fan?
So I've been a pro wrestling fan pretty much all my life. You know, it was tame when I was a kid. Like, it was like, oh yeah, like I know about wrestling. My older brother likes it and his friends like it. And then I was like actually forbidden from watching pro wrestling by my mom for a bit.
What, too violent, or were you going around hitting people with chairs?
Just too violent. I mean, I was, but that was completely unrelated.
Right on.
I was just a very aggressive kid dealing with some issues, but
Like,
that was completely unrelated.
Napoleon complex kind of issues?
Probably just a little bit. But yeah. So I was forbidden from watching it, and then I don't remember what year it was. I think it was like 2006, 2007, where you could actually start watching wrestling more on YouTube, and a lot of it wasn't WWE.
So was that your first exposure to actual independent wrestling outside of the WWE universe?
Yeah, and to be honest, it wasn't even really independent. I mean, it was independent. At most, the most indie would be, Ring of Honor, Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness matches, and whatever. But the stuff I really started watching a lot were the 90s All Japan videos. Because I guess that's where it wasn't just circulating the tapes anymore. It was people were posting full matches online, and you could watch them online, and they were on crappy quality on Daily Motion and early day YouTube.
So getting into All Japan, I mean, just a whole different world compared to like U.S. pro wrestling.
Insanely different. It's just the moves are way more brutal. So my little kid mind was like, oh, they can land on their heads like that?
So was that something you discovered on your own, or did you have other friends that introduced you to that, or was it just surfing YouTube and that's where it took
It was really just me. I mean, there were people that had a casual interest in it that I met along the way, but there was really never anyone that got really into it with me, like discussion-wise. I had kids in my neighborhood that would, to jump ahead a little bit, would watch the first season of NXT when it was a game show, and we were debating. I was a huge David Otunga fan.
Now, was this pre-MTV or after? I mean, was this when they were running Tough Enough off of MTV, or was it when they were actually doing
it wasn't tough
WWE?
enough. It wasn't tough enough. It was NXT.
Okay, so yeah. So Tough Enough, which is what NXT evolved from.
Yeah. The concept of you have to earn a shot to become a WWE superstar or whatever. So it was on the Sci-Fi Network channel 48 or something like that, and that was probably 2009 or 2010, and I remember having arguments with my friend.
Wasn't on Daniel Bryan when he debuted for that? Wasn't his mentor The Miz?
Yes, it was. Yeah, yes, he was.
So now, Luis, do you remember the era we're talking about now?
I'm getting there. Yeah.
Because I always thought it was funny, someone like Daniel Bryan, who's had more matches than The Miz, comes on NXT, Nexus, and The Miz was his mentor, but that was our first taste. We got to see Daniel Bryan on the big stage.
And I think a big part of why they probably did that mixture, even though technically Daniel Bryan was going to be the vet in that, was because Miz actually did come from Tough Enough, which was probably what NXT evolved from.
There's that, but there's also I'm not gonna get into their booking plans because I'm not a freaking booker, but they probably wanted to go for the character dynamic of this is the loudmouth, charismatic superstar, and this is the technical indie nerd and they kept on calling him a nerd, which was a very, very prominent term they used for Daniel Bryan during that season. And I think they wanted that contrast because, there's a good story in contrast, and wrestling at its core is about story.
Definitely is.
And I was a huge Daniel Bryan fan because, like I said, I got into those Daniel Bryan and Nigel McGuinness matches in 2006, 2007 because of YouTube and Daily Motion sharing those videos. But for some reason, a huge David Otunga fan. I remember he was yeah, he's teaming with John Cena on Monday Night Raw. And then he turned on John Cena that night. I was like, yeah, he turned on John Cena.
And to be fair, I mean, I like David Otunga a lot. I really thought that was going to go a lot further than what it really did.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't work out for everybody. And it's
I mean, he had the mic skill, he had the looks, he had the charisma. I mean, exactly where that fell apart, it's hard to tell.
I mean, I wouldn't even go as far as saying it fell apart because he had a solid on-air gig for years as a manager, as an attorney.
I mean, he wasn't no longer as a performer in the ring, which, I mean, he wasn't bad at all in the ring.
No, I wouldn't say he was bad at all, actually, because, you know, when you compare him to the base level of, he could do what they wanted from a big, muscular guy at a basic level. And that's really, and then you add in, you know, the ability to talk, and you can insert him into different feuds. He should have been able to do more, but he wasn't everyone's cup of tea. And I think he kind of came in at the time where the type of performer that WWE wanted to invest in wasn't exactly him. So I think with that in mind, if he debuted in like 2004, 2005 with the being engaged to a American Idol finalist. Maybe was she a winner? I can't remember. Jennifer Hudson, was she a winner?
I don't know if she won. I mean, definitely bigger name than what he was when he was in wrestling for sure.
Still mainstream exposure.
Yeah.
Mainstream appeal in that regard. And then you add in the fact that he was a big guy, could move around exactly like a big guy. Like, think of how successful Rene Dupree was at 19 years old for being a jacked six foot whatever. And just like, you know, just having that good look. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't last long, but from 2002 to 2006 or so, he held like 2 tag team championships.
And at that age with that physique, I mean, it's once again one of those things where I can't believe it didn't go further than what it did. It could have been a lot of things. I mean, being that age isn't exactly. Sometimes it doesn't work in their advantage. I mean, you're young-minded.
I'm that age.
You still are. Yes.
21.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where, God, they have all the talent in the world, and what it seems like all the time, because time is on their side with their age, and it just falls apart somehow. Mm-hmm. So, now, that's getting exposure now outside of WWE, and you're seeing New Japan and other things on YouTube. I can only assume was adding more fuel to the flame.
Yeah, as far as the fandom goes, there was the little bit of the desire to want to do that myself. But there was also the feeling of, you know, I'm 5'6". I'm not that athletic. I can't really do a lot of cool flipping stuff, and you know, I'm not in shape because still am a little husky, somewhat brown kid.
You know, way better shape than when I first met you. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
you put in some
true.
Good work.
And there's still so much work to be done, you know.
And that's your personal job. I think you're sexy.
Well, thank you.
So, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, just looking at what you see on the screen and what you see on YouTube, and looking at yourself. I mean, the visual of Vince McMahon guys are what 6'3", 250 plus pounds is what they really wanted to go for.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, that's what you would want to have, and you know, ideally, that's what they want. That's what you should want. I think, because I don't think that your talent should be ignored in favor of those, you know, physical traits or intangibles. But if I could have a guy that was 6 foot plus, jacked, really good looking, that could work and talk, of course I would want him to be my main guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, just looks sell. That's a basic fact. Not saying that looks have to be your only selling point, or that not having said look disqualifies you. It's just it's a very physically based market.
I mean, it's definitely a plus. I mean, you definitely have to work not as hard as, let's say, yourself or somebody, you know, Daniel Bryan and all that. Where you definitely put in the hard work to get to the level that somebody that's 6'3", 200 plus pounds could easily walk into.
Right.
So that's we're talking about your teenage years there and your exposure into wrestling. Now, what age did you leave New York?
17 officially.
17 on your own.
So I was drove down by my family. It was a big event. So my entire life has been on the whim, spur of the moment decisions. I applied to a school in Des Moines, Iowa, on a spur of the moment decision. They reached out to me with an email. I was like, okay, I'll go there. And then they gave me their presidential basic scholarship. I was like, okay, I'll go there. And then moved down. It was a 19-hour drive with me, my mom, my brother, and my nephew, and my dad. My dad, too, was along for the ride as well. And we got ourselves, they dropped me off, and there I was, alone, by myself, 1,000 miles away from my family.
Not living on campus, was all that set up already as far as the room? And
Yeah,
board
so
and
you
all
had you had to live on campus for Drake in your first. I think it was your first 2 years. If I'm not, I didn't make it to 2 years. I made it through one semester. But in your first 2 years, you had to live on campus. So that was taken care of. Too. So yeah, that part was taken care of. But even then, I didn't have a roommate. I had a roommate for a little bit, but because of circumstance beyond their control, I was like, I'll just live in the one bedroom by myself. I don't want to live with anyone to begin with.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I've had roommates. I've had some great ones. I had some sucky ones.
Yeah.
So, but then again, I wasn't 17. Well, no, I was 17 when I first moved here to Iowa. Yeah. So similar story.
Yeah, but it's so just to go back a little bit. I guess I would say my first exposure to indie wrestling live itself, especially local indie, was I would go to the Victory Pro Wrestling shows on Long Island at like from 14 to 16. I would sporadically go there on my own. I didn't have any friends to go with me. So my mom would just literally drop me off. I would sit in the same chair every single time because no one ever took that chair for some reason.
Because it was your chair.
It was, yeah, I guess I carved out a little nice spot with my booty in there.
Yep.
And I would sit right down, watch the entire show by myself. There's so much like Long Island wrestling merch that I left behind. I don't even know if I could find it.
Now, is that promotion still running?
Yes, they are actually. Victory Pro Wrestling, Long Island. It was, I believe, had featured people like Ricky Reyes, who played Cortez Castro on Lucha Underground in their first season. They also had Kai Katana, who was a replacement guy for the Cruiserweight Classic, if they needed him. But he also did, I believe he did one NXT taping as well. VSK, Kevin Tibbs, which they were both on a 205 Live taping as well.
Oh, nice. So they have some really good talent.
They have some really good talent there.
Nice. Do you have any aspirations? I mean, that's your hometown, so I assume you have to have some kind of drive to perform in front of your hometown.
I do, and a lot of it's also I want to be good enough to where the demand is for me to go out there because I miss my family a lot, and I can only really go twice a year because it's New York. It's very expensive to even get out there. So my goal is to one day be good enough to where I'm in demand enough to be like, we got to fly this guy out.
You're basically working, having it. I mean, it's paid for. I mean, that's your job.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not so much at the level of it having to come out of your pocket to travel.
Exactly, yeah.
Which really sucks. I mean, I remember doing many trips, driving 13 hours in one direction, paying for gas, meals. If I was lucky enough to stop somewhere and sleep, but that no money in it. First 2-3 years for me at all.
And that's the hard thing. Like I'm all for the paying your dues aspect of wrestling, but the simple reality is I'm a 21-year-old guy trying to live my life, and bills get in the way of trying to chase your passion. And I encourage everyone to chase their passion, but I also encourage people to not ruin themselves for something that may not pan out. Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. It's a great experience. It's a great journey getting there. And I mean, there's other ways. I mean, I found something clicked at some point where I realized I'm not going to be like you're saying. You want to be that guy where they're actually in demand for it. I'm going to pay you. I'm not going to be that guy. I have to make money another way because bleeding for every trip is going to suck. And my niche was basically a merch.
Right.
So there's other ways around it that's outside of having to be in demand to kind of supplement those trips. It's not going to pay your bills, but it will supplement that tank of gas either there or all the way back, or if you're lucky enough, both.
And shout out to I gotta give a shout out to like all the people that have made me look 20 times better than I actually am. Like, first of all, Chris Manning, the local photographer.
Yep.
Photos by Manning. I think his Facebook page is actually just Chris Manning Photographer now.
And you guys just had a match.
We just had a match. Well, he had a match with Barbosa.
Barbosa, yeah. Yes. And the photographers I had. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into that. Because that's a whole story in itself.
But yeah, he has a gift on making, great angles, great pictures.
And I got my my logo that you see on the T-shirt advertised right there by Cold Stone Tim Boston. Who does?
Okay.
Yeah, he's
great. Omaha guy.
Yeah, Omaha guy. Great with designs. Like, knew exactly what I wanted. Awesome guy.
Nice. Now, does he do that for other wrestlers, or was that just a personal favorite? I mean, does he have?
He can. So he can. I paid him because it's work, and it's he does really good work, and the work is obviously worth it.
So if other people want to get in touch with him, they could just basically go off his Facebook page and just shoot him a message, or does he have a link set up for that?
So what I did was I shot him a message. I talked to him in person first, and I shot him a message like, hey, I know you do designs. Can you tell me like how much you charge for it? And then he told me his price. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm so sorry, but he gave me the price quote, and amazing work.
Yeah, I love the shirt. I've been hounding you for a shirt, I think, going on over a month now. So I haven't seen it. No offense to you, but I'm a big guy, so I take bigger sizes that you don't really care around the show. So
you know what? You missed. So my first night of having shirts, I sold 6 of them that night, and I walked away with like $120. And I was like, okay, the merch game.
That's where it's at. That's where it's at.
They also sold all my like big and tall sizes.
I mean, yeah, wrestling fans are great at buying merch, and you need to have bigger sizes.
Hey, fuck you!
Yes, Sasquatch
it's
agrees.
Bulking season all season. All right, listen, it's all right.
I haven't stopped bulking since like 13 years old. When I get to that cutting stage, it's gonna be fucking phenomenal.
He's ready to harvest.
I'm gonna blossom eventually there. So all right, so let's go back to the story here. Now, Femmes bring you down to here to go to Drake.
Yep.
Get dropped off. Don't have a roommate, or chose not to at that point for whatever reason. Now, after your first semester, for whatever reason, that pan out did not work. At what point did getting into wrestling school become a reality?
So to get a little real and personal, my first semester at Drake ended because of mental reasons. Mm-hmm. I went to the hospital for suicidal depression, actually, for about 3 or 4 day stint. I was in a bad way. I encourage anyone who is at that point in their life to seek out help because it's there. There's loads of people out there that have been through it and are willing to help you through it. And you matter. People matter.
Everybody matters.
Everybody matters. And once that was going down, I was like, I decided to get into the Midwest wrestling scene more. Like going to shows. Because at this point, I still wasn't in the mindset I could do this. My first show I went to was a IPW show, actually, and while I was still a Drake student. And I remember a few specific matches. It was Matt Cage and Christian Rose. It was Nate Red Wing and Aaron Von Buren. And it was also probably my favorite match of that night. It was Matty Starr and Sparrow versus the Regal Twins. And Matty Starr is significant to me because he is a great guy and a great friend to me. Always has been.
Great performers. The Regal Twins are really awesome to watch also. So, that was your first introduction to, let's just say, the Iowa indie scene.
Yeah, that was my first taste. IPW. Impact Pro Wrestling. And then I wanted to make it out to a 3X show, but I found out that they weren't running at the time. That they stopped running
did stop running for
a bit, and I was very bummed about that. So the next show I could go to, this was after my stint in Drake ended, this was about January or so, was by that point I already been to the Revolver show, the Pro Wrestling Revolver show.
Okay, the first one they brought down, was that the first one?
Yeah, first one in Clive. Which is funny now because when I think back to it, I think back to a lot of people I know now that were like helping with chairs at that show, and I helped with chairs because I always liked even at Victory Pro, I was helping like put away the chairs and stuff like that. Not to get involved, but just
to help out.
The venue was a mess. Might as well help out, right?
And it's a big building.
It's a big building.
So you were helping out with at that particular show before even getting into any kind of training.
Yeah, and not even thinking about getting involved myself. You know. And then the first significant show, the show that I will credit to changing my life in a significant way forever, was the WrestlePalooza show in Woolley, at the Wooley's Bar in downtown Des Moines.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, is that probably was the first time I met you?
Yes, and that will be a story we will get into. Let me get into the emotional, oh man, that's awesome, part of the story. And then I will tell you the hilarious part of the story that involves this gentleman next to me.
Good times.
So I'm at the show alone. I go to shows alone. That's my thing. I've always gone to shows alone, and no one's ever talked to me. WrestlePalooza, Wooley's Bar. I'm standing there alone. I got there early, so I had front spot, right there, right up against the ring. Mm-hmm. A fellow by the name Chris Moore walks right up next to me. Says, "Hey, man." I was like, "Hey," and we just talked and hung out throughout the entirety of that first show. And at one point, he's like, hey, I'm going to be doing this. You should do it. I was like, I don't know. He's like, have you ever thought of it? I was like, kind of. He's like, you should do it. I won't curse because my mom watches this. I don't want to curse in front of my mother.
You raise a good fucking kid. I'll tell you that much.
She's awesome.
She is.
But, so he was like, he said, you dolphin noise should do it. And I was like, you know what? I will do it. And I met Shane Kello that night, Lars Metzger. They're Midwest Blood. For everyone who is into our scene. Midwest Blood, great tag team. I love them. I met Shane, Lars, that night. And first of all, let's talk about Shane for a second. How this 6'3", near 300-pound, big muscled guy is the most hilarious sight to when he opens his mouth. He's like, hey, buddy!
Yeah, I mean, God, he
and it
literally
catches
looks
you
like,
off guard.
Fuck, if he were to wear like a leather vest, you would seriously think he has a Hardy parked somewhere.
He looks like the guy that doesn't get involved in the movie Roadhouse, because if he did, the movie would be over.
And then once he opens it up, it's like Nicktoons.
It's literally Nicktoons, because he's wearing a Nicktoons shirt and wearing Rocco Modern's Life shorts, probably.
Oh, God.
Under a Philadelphia Eagles sweatshirt.
Best guy in the world. Though. Hilarious. I love hanging out with both of them.
Oh, yeah, they're both awesome. But, so yeah, I met those guys that night. And Chris was really, Johnny Ruckus was really pushing me. He's like, you should do it. You should do it. Like, you love it. I was like, you know what? I am going to do it. So I met Todd that night. And he was like, oh, yeah, so the deposit for 3X is $500. That's a little bit of my Todd impression. Did you catch it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Hints of it.
And I was like, okay. And I busted out my wallet and handed him $500 right there.
Right there in the spot.
He was like, oh, okay. All right. Which is even significantly funnier because, as we've established, Ryan Carvalho does things spur of the moment, in the moment decisions. I forgot to give him any kind of contact info. So
I'm trying to figure out how you're going to a wrestling show on your own and you're literally carrying around just $500+ in cash.
Who would think that a short 5'6" little Brazilian guy will have cash?
Now everybody.
I don't do that anymore.
All right, so you hand Todd $500. Yeah, exactly. Get so excited, basically forget to exchange contact.
Yeah.
For training school. Mm-hmm. Which obviously you guys must have found each other again because obviously you went to school.
Yeah.
So.
I think our connection was Chris because he was like, "Hey, dude, you need to give them contact info. They were looking for you on Facebook. They couldn't find you." I was like, "Yeah, right," because I didn't change like any of my info saying I lived in Des Moines at that point.
Everything was still based out of New York.
Everything was still based out of New York. So we eventually got in contact. They didn't have their tryouts that they usually have. It was just straight training.
Straight to the classes.
I also might have just bypassed that because, $500 right out the gate.
I mean, to do their tryout, I think is an additional $50.
Yeah.
For the tryout.
Yeah, so they're like, he already gave us $500, like on the spot. Might as well just let him get in here. If he sticks with it, he sticks with it.
Well, that's how to get that discount. Now everybody knows. Just hand them
just hand him $500 right out of your pocket. And you'll be good because
bypass the tryout.
Yeah. I'm not rich. Let me point that out. I'm not rich. I work, and you can ask anyone who knows me. I work an insane amount.
He literally doesn't have a bank account, so he carries his whole month wages.
I do have a bank account
to take with him everywhere.
I forget to update it
all right. So, looks like your deposit's paid. I mean, it's happening now. No way. I mean, $500 is especially that young and on your own. That's a big chunk.
It's a big commitment. It's a big chunk, and that means that it's a big commitment.
I mean, that's basically jumping in both feet in the deep end. Like, there's no turning back.
And that's just how I've grown accustomed to doing things, I guess. Just that's how I live my life. Right
on. So, Chris, great guy. So is Shane. Those were before even getting into training.
Before we move on from that night, though, we need to talk about you and me.
Yeah. So I met you that night for the first time.
I met Lewis that night.
Yep.
Big guy,
I was having a blast that night. I was there with. I think I went with John West. I'm not too sure.
I believe you did.
Nate might have been there for the first show. I'm not too sure if he was. I just remember at some point liquor took over for me pretty hardcore.
He was lost in the sauce. Is one way to say it.
You kept ordering shots of tequila.
Well, that's all I could basically drink.
Patron?
So that sounds right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely.
Patron.
Definitely.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, because I know you have a story about that night. Shane has a story about that night.
Shane's story, I know a little. Like, who cares about Shane's story? We're here about talking about my story.
But your story, which I think I was probably at that point a little gone because I don't remember till you brought it, but I can't deny that.
Yeah, I brought it up
exactly
the
like
first
something I would do.
training session you came to look in on, and I was like, oh, you don't remember me?
No.
Here's why he should remember me. So I meet this guy, 6 foot, whatever, tall, imposing. Has that cartel look to him that was the foundation for his gimmick.
I'm a friendly giant, basically.
Yeah, he is. But for some reason, how do I know this? Because the first thing he says to me, "You have big brown eyes."
I get lost in them.
I want to punch you in the face.
I did want to punch him in the face that night.
Just for there's I'm sure you're a sweet person, but looking at your face right now, I just want to punch you in the face.
I just wanted you to know it wasn't because of your personality. It wasn't technically personal. It was just that face.
You said it wasn't personal. It wasn't race because you're obviously something. But I just want to punch you in the face.
Just square in the face. And I think if I remember, your response to that was either thank you or I'll try to change that.
Yes, that's exactly. I was like, sweet. I'll get to work on that, I guess.
And I think I kept. Every time I bumped into you, I think I had to constantly remind you either by throwing up my fist or just yelling that face.
Well, yeah, you kept on me like, I don't know what it is. I just really want to punch you in the face. I was like, and I every time I was like, I appreciate if you didn't.
But no, I didn't. It didn't happen, which is great.
No, it didn't happen. We had a very. I remember you fondly for that because
I love talking about doing shit, but I rarely do it. So I'm just too lazy.
Is that what it is?
It was too lazy.
I think it's just because you're too nice.
No, because you would have hopefully retaliated, and then I would have had to put more effort outside of just punching you in the face. And I would have been just too lazy for that shit.
I would probably retaliate now. I'm a little bit more confident in myself. You got to understand, I was a chubby, freshly turned 18-year-old, no definition, 5'6" dude that was in a bar I couldn't even drink in.
That's right. So maybe I would have got punched back.
No,
so I should have put the effort in and not been so lazy.
Hindsight.
But, yeah, so that was our first encounter. No, you had to remind me the first day I walked into that training camp. You guys were already training for a while, and I think I just went in to see the new recruits and see how things were going. And yeah, you had to bring in somebody like, you don't remember? You're like, no, not at all.
I know, and you
wanted to punch me in the face. I'm like, oh.
I know, and out of a forgiving love for me, you worked with me personally on locking up. And I was like, okay, this is his way of saying, I guess, sorry about it. Which I don't mind because, any experience is good experience, I guess. Yeah. Any experienced person that can give their voice is something I'll take into consideration.
So I'm happy that I didn't shit on you by you seeing and hearing everything I was telling you. I'm like, oh, he's associated with like 3X. Fuck that, I'm not going to the training camp if that guy's a fucking part of that shit. So I'm happy that wasn't the outcome of that.
Right.
And I guess I got to switch from like Patron to whiskey or something to see if a different monster comes out.
No. Let's. You know what? We like the current monster because you don't actually do anything. It's harmless. So let's stick with the monster we know.
That works for me. So all right. So after the show, how long after the show was training? Was it start soon after that or
6 months? So after the show, it was 2 months. 2 months. I believe. I want to say 2, 3, maybe 3. I think because it started springtime and then it ran until October. It was a 6-month training camp.
And what was your initial thoughts on your actual first day training for pro wrestling?
There was a big class. There was a lot of guys that showed up, and they never came back.
What was the number that they started with?
I believe we started with like 12.
And what did you guys end with?
We ended up with 4.
Good. It's like 50%.
Roughly 50%.
Not good at math over here.
Not at all.
You know what? I don't know
Use
enough
both
about
hands
math
and fingers
to call you out on if that's right or wrong, so I'm just not going to try.
I also didn't end up going to Drake.
I did not finish going to Drake.
Paid a ticket in the crowd to a show no one showed up in, so at that point he's part of the show.
I work here. I clean toilets.
He fucking owns it.
So he's the Super Dragon guy from early PWG.
So first day of training, 12 people, only 4 make it all the way to the end. Mm-hmm. Was there any initial shocks for you in that first day of training, or was it more of them just going over what to expect?
It was more what to expect, and it was a lot of it was an annoyance with myself because I can firmly say I was not physically at a point where I should have been a wrestler.
Was anybody there at that point?
A few people. Shane was because he's a bigger guy. So it's like he was really like leading up to it. He was really working out a lot. So and showed.
I think Shane had prior training to that. I think his
Shane
first trainer was.
Shane has actually been. Shane was at a couple camps and what have you. So he knew what he was getting into.
Yeah, his first initial trainer was the Beast, actually, which Levi knows. The Beast from Chicago.
Beast well, man, but I don't know who this Shane guy is. I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting him yet.
Shane Callos. No, he graduated with Ryan's class about 2 years ago.
My class, yeah, my class. So the graduates of that class were me, Shane, Chris, and Brennan.
And then he's not wrestling anymore.
He's not. Maybe he'll come back one day. I'm not 100% certain. He's one of. The thing is, his body keeps on hurting him. You know, it's one of those things where. Just it takes its toll. It takes a toll. No, that's the thing. No matter how minimal your time in wrestling is, it will take its toll.
There's going to be some effect, or hopefully not a long-lasting effect, but you're definitely going to feel something.
You're going to feel something. So
there's no way around it.
Maybe one day he'll come back. I'm not certain, but he was always nice to me.
He was a good.
He was a nice kid.
Was there any point in while you were training that you literally had to convince yourself not to quit?
Yes, a lot actually, because I'm my own worst critic. I'm very hard on myself. I feel like that's a known fact to people that like really know me at this point.
Gospel.
And it's been a learning process getting over that kind of hump with myself. But each training class, it felt like I was yelling at myself, cursing at myself, telling me I'm garbage, trash, and I wasn't good. I'm still confident saying I'm not good right now. There's still a lot of work to be done, but there's something to improve on. And then back then there was just a voice in my head saying, "There's nothing to improve on here. What's wrong with you? Like what are you doing?" But I'm committed to finishing something if I'm starting it. Except for Drake. But that's different. That's $40,000 every 3 months on the line.
It wasn't a $500 one-night commitment.
Yeah, exactly. But
come on, man! If they paid you $20 to show up to class, you'd go.
If I got paid to go, but I was paying them to go. That's different.
Fair enough.
So I mean, it is mentally tough going through training, and I think part of that is because you see it done as your little kid. I mean, it's always in front of you. You always want to do that. You think you can do that, and when you see them on TV doing those basic things, then it could be as simple as running the ropes.
Yeah.
That was one of the toughest things for me to get was literally running the ropes, which you tell that to anybody else, you run from one rope to the other in the ring. Well, and that sounds pretty fucking easy and basic. The fuck it is. I think that literally took me 3 weeks before it literally clicked in my head.
How to run the ropes.
How to run the fucking ropes.
Wrestling does this great thing where it looks so easy by people that are at the level where they can make it look easy that you literally have no idea how hard it is to just get the basics down. Not even master them, just to get the basics down. My basics still need a lot of work. 2 years out.
And with pro wrestling, it's one of the you never stop learning. I mean, it's a constant. No matter what level you make it to. I mean, you could be John Cena in WWE.
Yeah,
it's always
the desire of self-improvement is what is necessary
to succeed.
It's what's necessary to succeed. I think that's a basic rule in life in general, but it's never been so much more apparent to me than in wrestling.
So was there any time in training, we already talked about the hardships and beating yourself over training. Was there any part where you left any session on cloud nine?
Our last session, our evaluations, we had a moment where we had to cut promos. Where they were like, all right, so you're having a match against Brandon Wallace. This is my Mark McDowell impression.
Who's this impersonation? All right.
You're having a match against Brandon Wallace at the flawless Brandon Wallace at the 3X Tickle Butt show. Tell him what you're gonna say to him and whatever. And for some reason, character work has always clicked with me. Just being animated and just getting really, really wild and stupid and becoming something that I'm really not has always clicked with me. So I decided to put on a accent imitating my dad. And I I cut a promo saying I was going to run circles around tiny-legged Brandon Wallace, and he might be able to lift me, but his legs will snap under or something like that.
God, you have such great mic work. I mean, the first time I actually got to see you work, where they let you loose on the mic, I think I told you after the show, like I specifically made a point to go find you. My jaw hit the ground. Like I did not expect that.
And that was after our partnership. That's skipping ahead a little bit, but that was after our partnership too.
Yes. I mean, this is when they literally let you loose a little bit. I mean, they let you kind of come into your own. Like, all right, they saw that you were pretty good at that point from just you cutting shit behind the scenes in the locker room, and they let you loose. And the first time I saw that, I was in shock. Like, I had to go find you personally. Like, yo, that shit was fucking hilarious.
Hilarity. I'm good when it comes to comedy. I need to start doing
top notch, prime rib. Prime rib.
Prime rib. Not chicken.
I love chicken.
Who orders top class chicken? Stop being broke. Jesus.
I'm sorry. I don't carry $500 in my pocket randomly to pay for fucking Landers classes like you. Now.
Sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So training is now
done.
Set and over with.
Yeah.
Now you're doing work for 3XW. I'm assuming that's where you got started after training.
So yeah, it worked out where 3X hadn't run a show for a while, and after I think it was like a full year where they did not run a show, my class lined up with them running their first show. I believe it was late November. It was either late November or early December, and it was the first Winter War show, and they had told me that I was going to be managing you. And you were going to be taking John West's partner at the time, Grizz, in a 3XW tag team.
Oh, okay, yep.
Championship match. And that was my first role. And honestly, I don't know if this is the reason. I can say it was the reason because I agree with it being the reason. If it's the official reason, I was not ring ready. I was definitely not ring ready. I was not ready to be thrust in the ring. And that was actually a theme where I was getting frustrated with myself because I didn't have my first match until about 4 or 5 months after finishing training.
Well, it's a blessing more than a curse, to be honest with you, because if you get into that ring before you are ready for it, it could have been, honestly, since you're that hard on yourself, your downfall, you just simply would have had a horrible show.
Simply demoralizing.
Could have quit, because I've been to that spot before after a match where I'm like, this is not for me, I'm done.
Right.
You know, it's just straight embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm happy it didn't go that route. I'm happy it was teamed with me. And you got to manage the tag champs. Briefly, I held the title for like a second. But regardless,
the match itself was 11 minutes, sir. So you were an interim tag team champion for 11 minutes.
I got to put that in my resume. I always forget about that one.
Mm-hmm. It's impressive.
Thank you. I worked hard for that title.
I know. I totally didn't cost us a match.
No, fuck. No, you did not. No, you did not. So, now fast forward. That was your first exposure actually working in front of a live crowd when they came back. Now let's get into you working your first match.
Right. So, my first match was you went down with an injury, I believe. I believe this is when you went down with the injury, the ankle injury, right?
Yep.
We had a thing with JD Riggs and Skylar Pierce where I was paying them through PayPal, but
payments weren't going through.
Yeah, payments weren't going through, and we blamed it on
computer software, was it?
That and Donald Trump related issues.
Oh, right on.
I can't remember exactly. Oh, I think it was because
Is that where you cut like a 12-minute promo? We cut a 12-minute promo on the thing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say the reason. Just understand, Donald Trump was responsible for JD Riggs not getting his payment.
I believe it.
But
bad business deal.
I had a alignment with them, and you were down with your injury, and I blamed the reuniting American Bulldogs because they were we were the catalyst for them reuniting.
You guys were the reason they brought them back.
Yeah, we were the reason because we just kept on We kept on having issues with John West, and then we kind of targeted Mad Dog McDowell for a while, and then eventually they were like, "Hey, we gotta take care of this situation." I believe it was subtly implied that I set the McDowell family van on fire.
They worked that angle. Nice.
Yeah, they didn't. They kind of alluded to it. I kind of alluded to it. I also claimed that you were being detained at customs that first show without you.
Yep.
So,
once again, I mean, it's just the stuff you come up with on the fly. Once that camera starts rolling, is it's a gift. It really is. And it's pure entertainment. I enjoy it every time I see any clip that you come out with, or I'm there live in the audience watching it. It's just that's one of the highlights for me, to be honest.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So your first actual match was that the tag match against
a
the
tag
American
match
Bulldogs?
with American Bulldogs with me, JD Riggs, and Skylar Pierce, which has a very funny moment. We're allowed to get into the inside aspects of wrestling here,
Go for
right?
it.
I feel like we already have, but I'm just gonna ask anyway.
Yep.
So there was a moment where that I'm on John West's shoulder, and I believe we discussed that JD Riggs was gonna tag me and then come in, but he didn't. So John has me on his shoulder for a solid 10 seconds, where we spin around, and he's like, "I'm gonna hit my finish on you." But he talked in that very fast John West way.
The mumble?
So I couldn't hear him. So I'm like, what? And then F5.
just surprise F5.
Surprise F5. I was like, that's what he said. Okay.
So was that the end of the match, or did he try to...
No, that wasn't the end of the match. I think the pin got broken up, which, as it should, because that's his finish.
It would have been great if you kicked out and won.
Going into business for myself, first match.
Well, you could have played the dumb card. That wasn't the
I
ending.
totally did. I'm sorry,
ending.
I didn't realize. And then in my head, I'm like...
I kicked out at 1.
Screw your finishing, John.
Fuck you, John West.
But, no, they hit a double team splash on me, which is probably one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen coming at me the first time.
Did you poop a little?
No, I didn't poop. I haven't pooped yet.
No?
No, I haven't pooped. I've almost peed myself.
There's so many poop stories out there. I can't wait to get to them.
We had a show in Mingo, Iowa, with a crowd of 10 people, and I could have swore I pooped myself after I took a certain move, but then I gave myself the old pat. And I was like, okay, woo, I'm good.
What about you, Leva? You have any poop stories?
Yeah, actually, I did shit my pants in Colorado once. I kind of had the flu, and I had the shits the whole way there. We were stopping every truck stop along the way, but the guy I wrestled, his name's Jason, and he was a mini Big Show, and I was pretty green, maybe 19. I was already nervous before the match. We didn't talk about anything before we went out there, and I honestly, man, I was so out of it. I fucked some spots up. Then at one point, he dropped me on my head for a back suplex. I'm pretty sure I had a concussion, but I don't know. But dude, I felt the shit's coming, and then next thing I know, he's doing a stalling suplex. And as soon as my back hit the mat, I felt it all come out. And then from there, dude, I totally blanked the finish, and I knew I was going over, and I knew that this guy was pissed that I was going over because he's way bigger than me, and I'm still a kid. And the way the finish was supposed to go, he was going to throw the clothesline, and I was going to catch it, kind of go behind and do a roll-up on him. And he totally throws the line, and I fucking duck, but I don't catch his arm, and I don't follow through, and then... he's just clobbering me, and I think I ended up winning with a small package or something. But.
So, good thing you say that, because I think to really, to have a power move with a pants full of Duke, you hit him with that all crotch and face, desperate pin. I'm definitely winning this championship pin. And just he's like, what the heck?
Yeah, right? And the thing about it was this show, brand new ring. The ring was awesome. It was at an ice hockey rink, so it had potentially a huge show, but there was only probably maybe 20 people there.
It wound up becoming a different type of show.
Yeah, it was supposed to be huge, but the show wasn't, but whatever. I didn't really care, but yeah, I shit my pants, but at least I was wearing long tights that night, not trunks.
White trunks would have been the best. I think the closest I got, I took a power bomb from Dog McDowell. And I didn't shit my pants, thank God, but I could tell by the ref's face that the first 3 rows could smell something.
Funny story about Mad Dog McDowell. He once clotheslined me, and he was like, "Well, I didn't know you could do an inside-out bump." I was like, "Yeah, that's what it was."
Yeah, I didn't know either, right?
Yeah, right.
Jesus.
Totally wasn't me just completely rotating from the force of your massive arm and my tiny body colliding.
Jeez, I mean, yeah, he is a strong brute. Just plain and simple. Plain and
He
simple.
and John deadlift 600 pounds for fun. They're just oh, this is fun.
I mean, I remember I was going to training classes, and he was one of the trainers, and my training partner was JD Riggs. I feel I'm a big guy, but that guy's just gigantic. I couldn't lift him. I could get him. I tried going in body stands. I get him as high as like my mid chest, and just unfortunately drop him. I remember like fucking Mark would pick him up like 4 times in a row, like it wasn't shit.
Show you
yeah,
how
like
to do it.
Jesus Christ, like how the fuck?
Speaking of JD, I have the honor of being his retirement match.
I was in on that too.
We were, and you got code breaker to hell.
I did. I used a pipe wrench on him, and they got code breaker by I think his nephew. He wanted to be a part of his retirement match.
And he still beat me on his way out.
That was a good one. Now, since your first match there, teaming up with JD Riggs and going against the Bulldogs, have you been working pretty? Was there a break in between your next match, or did they pretty much have you continuing with that storyline and character?
Kind of yes, kind of no. They had me continue that storyline, and I actually had my first match outside of the promotion for CEW, and it was a tag match against John and Mark again, and it was actually me and a man who would go on to become one of my very best friends, along with Chris and Shane, and you, of course, Kyle. Currently Seto Kobara.
Another one that's I got lucky enough to watch blossom into his own.
And this was when he was under the name Robert Storm too at the time, and we were managed by Axel Grease.
Now, was he doing his Australian?
Yeah, he was doing the rugby
thing.
So he was doing the rugby thing, and he was supposed to team with this jacked, advertised guy on the poster, really good looking, 6-pack abs, has the shortcut, looks like a model straight out of whatever. Mm-hmm. And then they come out, and it's me and him.
Old beta switch.
And this is me. This is really husky Ryan.
So they did the before and after picture, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. I was if I ate the other guy. I'm gonna sneeze real quick. I lost it. It's okay. It'll come back soon.
So I mean, all right. So that's working pretty regularly for 3XW. Now you got to venture off and started working for other promotions.
Yep.
And you've been. How many promotions have you worked for already?
I guess if you were to count one match or battle royals in that as well, as a technicality, it would be 3X, PWP. I would say about 7 or 8 now.
7 or 8 of them. And from my experience, I mean, every locker room has a different feel to it, and different atmosphere. Do you have one locker room that you like being in over the others?
PWP. A lot.
And that's actually one of my favorite picks also. There's a great atmosphere right there.
I love the locker room with 3X. I love the people there, but it's just sometimes it gets very crowded. And I don't like being confined in tight spaces myself. Despite being a short and small man, I don't like being confined in short and small areas. Yeah, I need space. I'm moving to an apartment that's going to have 17-foot ceilings because I need it.
I heard you change the bulbs.
I don't need to.
It's an apartment.
That's my first thought. Oh shit, I can change the bulbs. So yeah, PWP's atmosphere. I mean, the locker room, the crowd. I love their atmosphere. I really do.
There's something about bar crowds that I really like.
I love working bar. I mean, that's my favorite thing to work is bar shows. Mm-hmm. It really is. I mean, I like the family oriented stuff, but I like the freedom to say bitch or dick. Or both of them in the same sentence, and not go in the back and get hassled for it,
And I think it's those bar shows that I really started exploring aspects of the Barbosa character, because there I can be a lot more risque, and with what I do, and when your character is essentially a Brazilian nightclub pervert that's been looking at you weird all night, you gotta kind of branch out and figure out how skeevy you can get, and then. You gotta dial it, and it's hard to do that on a family-friendly show because you can't really push your boundaries. But I can learn how to reduce it and dial it down for those family-friendly shows.
Now, before you got to work in the ring for PWP, you were actually showing up a lot, almost every show, not being booked, just setting up, tearing down the ring, and just doing anything asked of you.
So it was sorry to cut you off, but
it
was you, Kyle, Chris, and Shane that were getting the regular bookings, and Mark, he would get his occasional booking there, but it was mainly you guys that kept on getting your bookings. You were the Rising Phoenix champion at the time, and this was where a lot of self-doubt, my initial bout of self-doubt was coming in, because here are the 2 guys in my training class getting these regular bookings as a tag team and flourishing there. And then here you have a guy close to my age relatively and like becoming one of my best friends. Like all of you guys are like some of my best friends I ever had, my brothers. But, you know, it's just like he's closer to me in age than you guys are, a few years. And like he's getting good. And then Chris and Shane graduated in the same class as me. They're getting good. Then there's you, and you're already good. And I'm traveling with you. I'm getting nothing. And I'm not doing anything. So I'm like, am I even good to do this? Those were thoughts that were very creepily going into my head. And I wasn't really putting on good showings ring-wise at 3XW either. Like the minimal opportunities I got. I was doing good with my character work, but in the ring, it was just
Still very green.
Still very, very green.
Not having enough matches under your belt that time yet to, get the skill that you need to in order to get out of that little rut. Now, do you remember with PWP, with your persistence of constantly helping out, paid off, and do you remember you having your first match there?
Yes,
PWP?
I do actually. So,
and who was it against?
It was against Zach James, and that first match PWP is significant to me actually and Zach James is too because he actually took time about a month or so ago to give me a spotlight and be like, hey, I think this kid's gonna be really good in a couple years in the Midwest scene. And my first match at PWP was against him. This was still very out of shape Ryan, very not ring ready Ryan, and I crapped it.
First match with Zach.
First match with Zach. I crapped it. I couldn't get high enough for his finish because I honestly couldn't jump high enough for his finish.
And what was his finish?
It was the suplex into a double knee from him. And I could not get the air for it.
To get all the way up for it.
And
white men can't jump.
Half white men can't jump.
But Brazilians can.
Brazilians can. So I'm a failure to my people, apparently.
Just half.
Just half of them. The other half is like, yeah, that's pretty in line.
That's pretty
in line with what we're about.
So,
but 12-inch vertical.
But I crapped the bed. I did. And I actually go back and look at the pictures from that match because to show the before and after of where I'm at now versus then, it's like night and day.
Now, do you remember after the match going behind the curtains, what did Zach or Chris, which is the owner promoter of PWP, did they share any words about that match with you?
They did. It was like, it wasn't good. It was the general consensus was it was all right. You're learning, but in my head, I was like, I know I'm not going to be called back for this, and I did not get called back for a long, long time.
Did you keep showing up though?
I kept showing up because that's where my brothers were working, and I want to support my brothers, and that constant visibility meant a lot to them. So to the point where they were like, he had a really bad go here. Let's let him come in at our O-Comic-Con shows, which are actually, I believe, at the end of this month. They're having their O-Comic-Con in Nebraska, where they do a bunch of matches. They do a bunch of matches in like little, how like Latino Fest is set up, where they'll have three, like a 1-2 hour block where they have match after match after match.
And this is indoor show for Comic-Con. I think one of the last matches I did before stop was for them at a con. Were you there where they had Booker T was there?
Yeah, so we worked in a match together there.
Okay, right. You could tell my memory is shit because we were drunk all the time. I remember.
We were in a triple.
Too much.
Whatever, it's apple juice. So go ahead.
We were in a triple threat against the current PWP Rising Phoenix champion Brett Bishop.
Mm-hmm. We were. God, I did minimum shit that one because I think that was my first match back since like the ankle surgery, and I was just stiff as fuck. I did horrible. You did awesome.
Well, so that's where again PWP comes in, where I can test the boundaries of the character, and I was working really hard on doing the character, and I had a match with Zach James, like a redemption match is how I viewed it, and it went really well, to the point where they brought me back as a regular.
So you're still currently a regular for PWP?
I'm still currently a regular, and I just had my first victory at PWP.
Oh, who were you working?
Con Artiste.
Con Artiste.
Good guy. Great guy.
Big guy.
Big guy.
He's great to work with. Very
energetic. I mean, his ideals are nonstop when you're going over.
His ideas are nonstop, and he's always thinking of you too. He's always thinking of how you could look cool too, which I appreciate because I'm still in the awkward position where someone asks me, "Well, what do you do?" I don't know what to answer because I've been a whipping boy for the last 2 years of my career. Like, no offense whatsoever. It's stuff like that. So it's always hard for me to think, what do I do? You know?
Which is basically the next step now. Next step at that point of your career of
building.
Now you literally are not just taking. I mean, you're not the jobber anymore. Now you're getting your offense in. You got to put more thought into the match now versus just listening while you're in the ring to what to do next.
Exactly.
And how did that match go with Khan?
I liked it. I blew a couple spots. Not gonna lie. But it's significant to me because I got to do more character work with it, like adding like a new layer to just my entrance, just like a little thing. Like now, when I enter the ring, I'm laying down and I'm humping to the sound of to the beat of my music while laying down, and so I brush my chest hair on my way to the ring.
Is it still shaped like a martini glass?
Which is shaped like into the shape of a martini glass.
Nice.
Which was kind of my first layer of character that I added.
I remember when you first brought that to the locker room, took your shirt off, yeah.
After months of being harassed by Shane and Chris to do it, because my natural chest hair just kind of naturally grew into a shape like that, I was like, okay, fine, whatever, do it. I don't care. Do what you want. My opinion doesn't matter anymore. And they did it, and people hated me when they saw it. So I was like, sweet, I'm keeping it.
The best thing ever when I saw it.
It was great.
Keeping it.
Especially when he came out stroking it.
That one time.
The first time I started to brush,
they wanted to drink out of it.
That's right, because I was like, instead of brushing it at the time, I was like caressing it. I was like, oh, whatever, look at this. I spent $300 on getting this shaved in.
So I mean, it's great to see that whole character, like the start to where it's evolving to now.
Right.
And are you using the same character everywhere you're working at right now?
No, actually. So I've begun my Babyface Run at Rugged Pro, where I get to team with a very talented young man named Jimmy Wild.
And where does Rugged Pro run out of?
Marshalltown, Iowa, and in fact, you can actually come out to our show in Marshalltown on June 8th at the Impala Ballroom, where I will be competing in a triple threat ladder match against Austin and Tyler presents Flex Appeal, and the original incarnation of the Fight and Flight connection, Nathan Edwards and Clay Cooper.
Oh, nice. They're back
together? They're back together, yeah.
Nice. Now, you are currently the tag team champions there.
Currently tag team champion there.
Now, before we get into this, your new run as a tag team champion, we kind of ran over your first title run, and I want to go back and talk about that. So do you still currently have that title?
Yes.
Okay, so how long have you been the champion?
I will describe this as me being the most decorated champion in 3X right now as far as tenure goes, because I have been the Tinsel champion for 17 months now. 17
months straight as a Tinsel champion. Now, with that being said, that's a long time. 17 months is a long time.
Champ for a long time, baby.
Now, can you describe what this title is?
Sorry?
The title. What is this title?
Oh, you want me to explain it right now?
If you can. I mean, Tinsel. I mean, sort of like Tinseltown is a talk of the town. It's a party. It's beautiful. It's the happening thing, I'm assuming.
If we're trying to get into the technicalities of the rules of my championship, which I've been holding for 17 months longer than any current champion in 3XW, you have to actually win a match to get rid of it. But 17 months, baby.
So the only way to drop the title is to actually win
a match,
which I think is brilliant. To be honest with you, can you describe how the belt looks, or is there any pictures on your Facebook page or your fan page? Do you have a fan page?
Yes, I do. Barbosa Wrestling.
Awesome. And do you have pictures of this beautiful title?
There should be pictures of me and the title on that fan page.
If not, because you said there should be, I strongly suggest you
putting some pictures up. Yeah. So just to give people an idea that don't want to bother looking through my fan page, it's a It's a toy SmackDown Tag Team Championship belt
Digging.
with Christmas stickers
Even better.
wrapped in blue and white tinsel
I'm jealous at this point.
with no Velcro to hold it.
I could only dream one day you drop that title to me.
Maybe one day, man. You got to work real hard to get that bad boy.
And I'm assuming 17 months is a long time to carry it. And I don't think it speaks in volume because you lose every match. It's because it's fucking entertaining to watch you and your character do what you do in there with that title. I've seen you in a couple matches with it where you're literally trying to give it away.
Yeah, so the first few months I had it, I was trying to figure out what I can like do with it. So I had a few ideas where, okay, maybe we can turn this into a 24/7 kind of deal. So we viewed footage that I don't think was ever been put out, where I lost to kids in the crowd. I lost to a basketball because I threw it against the wall and it hit back at me and I fell down. So it's like, okay, inanimate objects are ineligible to win this title.
Eligible now, yes.
And I still can't beat an inanimate object, apparently.
It takes time.
Just little experiments. It got tuned to where it was more like, it was more just a symbol of my ineptitude. Where it's like, this guy could be good, but he's just such a braggadocious jerk that keeps getting in his own way.
But I thought it was, at first I didn't get it, to be honest. Once I saw you doing what you were doing, I did get it. You're very entertaining to watch, and it's a great way to get you more in, ring work, get you more experience in there.
I forgot to give a shout out to the 3XW training school, like the specific trainers. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Shout out to Jeremy Hall, Mark McDowell, and Jeremy Robb that were all involved in that training process. Because without them, I probably wouldn't be involved.
I mean, shout out to
You
this
might have
school.
won a match.
I might have won a match.
Might have won a match.
Listen, I've won some matches now. I think I'm on victory number 4 or 5 in my career, so.
That's more than me already. Shit, fuck. With that being, do you know if they're running another school anytime soon, or?
That I wouldn't have any knowledge on, honestly. Sorry, I wish I could. But I haven't heard anything. I assume we'll probably hear more come summertime. They did run a class last year. I can tell you that. I just don't know if they're going to be running one this year.
Right on. All right, so
If there's anyone watching this that has like demand or a desire to start training, hit them up. They are very responsive on Facebook, and if there is a demand and a market for it, they will invest in it.
or simply before even go further and go to an actual show. Meet some of the wrestlers there at 3XW Wrestling. Meet some of the promoters, some of the owners. Get a feel for the atmosphere and just have a good old time. And then, get into some training after that. See what you can do to help out setting up, breaking down, and get into the business.
Speaking of which, you can do that on June 7th at the American Legion Hall, where we will be throwing our 3XW show, where I'm in a tag match with the seed of Chris Manning, Parker Manning, against Chris Manning and Donnie Pepper Cricket.
His actual seed?
His actual seed. The product of his loins.
I was just going to get there from his loins?
Yep, straight from it.
How old is this kid?
Well, he's roughly your height.
I know he's
Verified?
18.
Is he? Okay.
I think so.
Right on. I didn't know you were going to be beating little kids.
No. I'm not using little kids to beat their fathers.
Are you going to defend your tinsel title against them?
I believe it will be on the line. I mean, the rule is I have to pin someone.
In order to lose it.
I'm going to abuse this technicality loophole as much as possible until I lose the darn thing, all right?
So now that's one title you're holding. So you're holding dual titles right now. So we could basically call you Barbosa 2 belts.
Yeah, and it's very funny how they're both very contrasting belts, because one is a symbol of how I'm one of the top tag team wrestlers in the Midwest, because it's called the Midwest Tag Team Championship. The other is like, you can't win a match, bro. You
got the best of both worlds.
Right.
So let's talk about your tag team championship and how did this tag team come to be?
So Austin Fouts, who runs Rugged Pro, wanted a white a white meat babyface tag team. Mm-hmm. Jimmy is very good at being a babyface. He's very good. Jimmy Wild is somebody I think that has so much potential in the world that I don't like. I think he's going to surpass all of us at some point. I think in a few years, Jimmy Wild is going to be one of the guys that we talk about. Like, did you know that he's from here?
You know, I got to wrestle a match with him before.
I got to be his tag team partner. That's what I think Jimmy's
That's where he's
ceiling
headed.
is. I think that's where he's headed. And Austin likes me, knows that I can do decent character work, and I'm always willing to try something new. And I have done work on my body to become a young, good-looking fella.
You have.
So he was like, let's put them together. All right, let's do it. And me and Jimmy have very good banter. We get along really well. We have very good chemistry. I can't wait to explore that more and get that rhythm in the ring, like perfected. But we just have a very good dynamic with one another.
How long were you guys working together before you guys got the title?
First match in.
All right. I didn't see that answer coming.
Yeah, first tag match together, first championship victory together.
And who did you guys win the title from?
We beat Coda Jacobs and Nikki Sent.
Nice.
Two really good, oh my god. So, the same raving about Jimmy I just went on, I'm going to rave about Coda Jacobs and Nikki Sent too.
Go for it.
So, Coda Jacobs is probably 10 times the character worker I will ever be. Because he straight up seems like a Republican that's going to take my health care away. When he's so invested into it, like he has the suit and everything, he has the $100 smile.
Just makes you hate him.
Just like, oh man, you're just gonna policies.
Palm of his hand, just eating out of it.
Exactly, and then you have Nikki Sent, who I like. He's Barbosa, better with fragrances.
Oh, so he smells good.
That's
phenomenal.
Subjective. He has many scents.
Does he sell like perfumes and colognes?
I don't know. You would have to ask him. You can see him at the next Magnum show.
I'll definitely try to make that a goal.
He is so good at character work, and just they're both excellent in-ring workers too. And I had the honor of sharing the ring with these three young guys that I really think are just going to be phenomenal in the future.
And how long have you had the tag champion?
We won it in, I want to say March. I'm not 100% certain. I'm very bad at remembering specific dates myself.
Have you had to defend it yet?
Not yet. Our triple threat ladder match will be the first title defense.
And that's coming up what date again and where?
June 8th at the Impala Ballroom in Marshalltown. I can get dates down if it's in the future. I can't get dates down if it's in the past.
Rightfully so. Those you got to forget.
Yeah,
some
exactly.
reason. Make space for the new dates.
Exactly. It's compartmentalized.
We'll link those.
Definitely.
We will link those in the description.
You'll see all the links to all the dates.
You can buy those tickets online.
So you've taken us on a trip of how you came about in the wrestling business and how Barbosa came about. So we've seen your past and your work to get to where you're at in the present. Where do you see yourself or with this character or within the business in the future?
I don't know. I think that in this business, you should always strive to improve. That should be your motivating factor. The desire of self-improvement is what will bring you all the success you want in the world. And I want to improve, but I don't want to make, statements saying, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there, because you never know with life. So I like to take things in that I'm going to try my best to become as good as I possibly can till there's just a screaming demand for me in these markets to where I make myself a commodity, because in wrestling, commodities are what sell.
Yep.
And I guess if you were to ask me what goals are, to become a commodity, I want to be demanded for. Like, I want people to see me, and they're like, we got to hook this guy up. We got to make sure he can work in like Japan, like DDT. Is one place I would really love to work, because that's one of my favorite promotions in the world. DDT is a Japanese promotion that centers on comedy, but while they have great comedy matches, they also have great matches straight up. And that's just like that's one of the elite, like,
It's on your bucket list.
It's on my bucket list, honestly. And I don't really have a bucket list because I like to, think that the future is open. Mm-hmm. There's different avenues that it can take. I don't think anything happens for a reason. A lot of people believe life like everything happens for a reason. I don't believe that. I believe life is what you make of the opportunities and choices that have formed before you.
So when they give you the ball, it's up to you to do
It's
something with it.
it's kind of up to you to do something with it. And things can happen that set you back, things that can happen to push you forward. But at the end of the day, you have control of your life. So don't be afraid of that control. It's you do have the potential to work with it and take yourself to where you want to get to. I honestly believe that.
I cannot wait till the day my son asks me for $40 because he needs to buy one of your T-shirts from WWE Shop Zone. Let's put it that way. And I'll be highly upset that you haven't given me one for free, to be honest, because I'm a cheapskate.
I'm still supposed to give you one for free right now, but haven't committed to that part yet.
Now, before we wrap this up, is there anything you want to plug or you want to put in or say to anybody that's going to watch this?
So check out 3X Wrestling. We will link all the promotions. 3X Wrestling, Magnum Pro, PWP, Rugged Pro. Listen, the Midwest is so unique in the love that its local scene gets, especially in the Iowa and Omaha areas. And I think part of that might be because there's no professional team. So I think people are prone to root for the local competition, to the local promotions, and be like, hey, these are our guys.
Yep.
Just check them all out. There's so many talented people that we have the pleasure to work with.
Tons here in the Midwest. Tons of great shows being put on. Definitely, when you have a chance, check any one of your local indie shows that are going on in your area, or even take a few hour drives and go out of your area and check them out because it's definitely worth it.
They're so worth it. And I guess as a parting like advice or word, I'm just a 21-year-old kid doing something that I never thought that I was going to do, and have developed such a love for it that I can't imagine not doing it. You never know what's going to inspire you. You never know what's going to make you feel happy. You never know what's going to happen. So I just live life. Be happy with it. Try to work with it, and because it's worth living, and it's worth doing what you want.
It's the only chance we get. I want to thank Santos Barbosa for coming out. Really enjoyed our time sitting here together. And we're going to sign off now and see you guys next time.
Thank you very much.